Hi there, it's Kevin with Roguedeckbuilder.com coming in at number 8 in our countdown of the top 10 rogue cards. This one is Profane Memento. This is a very interesting card. It feels a lot like Crypt Incursion to me. And I think that the best place for this card would be a mill deck. I can see an argument for putting this in like Mono Black Devotion against incredibly aggressive decks, or even in a deck like the white-blue variants. But white-blue, at the moment, controls have other ways to gain life. Profane Memento probably wouldn't be as good of a fit in that one. So anyway, I'm going to show you a deck that I think this would go into. Pull up Magic Online, and this is a blue and black mill deck. Now we get another beautiful card here in the form of Mind Sculpt, as you get to put for just 2 mana, top 7 cards of an opponent's library in the graveyard, and we still couple this with another 2-drop with Breaking, and which is the top 8 cards. You have quite a bit of mill power already in Breaking and Mind Sculpt, so you'll need to really supplement it with a few other cards, with like maybe a 2 of Mind Grind and a 1 of Psychic Spiral. Not a big fan of Traumatize. Traumatize, a lot of times when you have it out on the 5 mana, you've already milled them, that it ends up being, you've milled them to the point that ends up maybe getting like 12, 13 cards. And so for 5 mana investing into it, where on your 5th turn you want to be doing something big, or keeping up mana to maybe Psychic Strike plus like a Mind Sculpt, that's the main reason I'm not a fan of the Traumatize. So again, this one would fit in. The problem with mill decks is they generally have a hard time against any creature-based deck, and Profane Memento and Crypt Incursion will guarantee, I mean, you'll have access to 8 of these ways to gain a ton of life versus creature decks, will guarantee that creature decks cannot beat you. So then against control, you just run the regular shell with like Psychic Strikes, Syncopates, and ways to actually get more advantage. So I thought of Ashiok. I'm not quite sure if Ashiok quite fits in this deck. She is, or he, it, whatever Ashiok is, a way for you to consistently get 3 cards from target's opponent's library. The problem is that I don't really like it versus creature decks, maybe big creature decks, as we already have the anti-creature package. And again, you have to flirt around with this card to see if it actually works. But as your other finisher, for the moment, it would be Jace Memory Adapt. Now, I kind of do like the new Jace and the Return to Ravnica Jace, as this card does everything a Planeswalker needs or wants to do, which is look at the top 2 cards of your library, put 1 of them into your graveyard, so it's manipulating the top of your library. That's A. Is it going to give you some sort of advantage, some incremental advantage? And even though this is a lot weaker than anything that draws cards, it is a plus ability to kind of like, this really feels like its +1 is to scry, and you got to keep in mind that Jace enters the battlefield with 5 loyalty counters, so he is very close to his ult and very hard to kill on 4th turn if it's through damage to do actually 5 damage. And then the number 2 thing that a Planeswalker needs to do, or actually probably the first thing that when you look into a Planeswalker, is does it have a way to protect itself? And Jace Living Guild Pack does have a way to protect itself by returning another non-land permanent to its owner's hand. So you can bounce your own stuff, you can bounce your opponent's stuff. Again, the key card is non-land. It's not just creature, it's any non-land permanent you can bounce back to their hand. So you can really set them back if they 3rd turn dropped a Planeswalker of their own, you can bounce it back, and then, or 4th turn, excuse me, and then, then proceed to +1 a few more times until you can actually afford to do that again, or just, go for the ult. And each player shuffles his or her hand and graveyard enters their library and draw 7 cards. See, the hand and graveyard thing, that might be actually counterintuitive with Jace the Living Guild Pact, as you're trying to manipulate them. But usually when you actually ultimate Jace, they're into top deck mode, and the game's pretty much over. So Jace could actually fit in this deck, and that's about all the spoiler I'm going to do on Jace. Or review, I guess. I'm not a big fan of these type of blue control routes, as you may have known from my past here. So he's not going to show up, spoiler alert, he's not going to show up in any list of my top 10. So if he does fit in any of the decks that I will build, it'll probably be this one. So let's go back to the deck here, and back to Profane Memento, when just, again, this card, between this and Crypt Incursion, there's no chance that an aggro deck is going to be able to beat you. You will mill so many cards on turn number 2, so you go like turn 1 Profane Memento, turn 2 Mind Sculpt. Even if you get like 4 cards, it's turning all your Mind Sculpts and Breaking and Enterings into gaining life as well as putting cards in their graveyard. So we do need ways to fill back up our hand. That is going to be some Read the Bones opportunity combo. You could add more of these, less of these. We have Demir Charm. I think Demir Charm actually works very well in a mill deck because you can actually destroy an early creature, power 2 or less. That's very pertinent. There is a lot of 2, like Corsair Crewfix is a 2. And then Bramaz is not a 2, so it can't get Bramaz, but it can get like Prophetic Flame Speaker. It can get Ash Zealot. It can get Precinct Captain. There's plenty of things that Demir Charm can actually kill in the format. And then again, you get to look at the top 3 cards of target player's library, put one of them back, and the rest at that person's graveyard. So you kind of get to lock them out. Mill 2, it's basically mill 2 and keep their worst card on top. And so I kind of like Demir Charm. And then you can counter a sorcery spell. That's actually very pertinent in the format. There are plenty of sorcery spells that you do have to be worried about. Now, onto control cards. Like the only main board I think you'd run would be Far and Away and Hero's Downfall. Again, the top 3 decks at the moment are UI Control, Mono Black Devotion, and Boros Burn. None of those decks you want to have the creature package against, so the creature package would definitely be in the sideboard, and this would be more the main board route. But you do have at least some outs versus the creature with Hero's Downfalls and like Far and Away. And then Game 2 and Game 3 should be pretty easy with the Crypt Incursions of Profane Memento. And yes, this card won't, that we are kind of spoiling this. Profane Memento is the number 8 card. Yeah, it's not a main board card. This is definitely a sideboard card, but I definitely think it is worth to be in the top 10 list. So one more time, we'll go back to the deck. Psychic Strike is the best counterspell as it does mill them too. So you're going to be an incremental mill through like Demir Charms getting either value by countering sorcery spells or killing a creature, but late game you can actually use them to mill too. Same thing with Psychic Strike. You're going to get at least 2 cards in the graveyard. So with this, the combination of Mind Sculpts and Break and Entering, and the Jace Memory Adepts and Mind Grind, Psychic Spiral, I think it'll be pretty easy for you to actually mill them out now. Again, Ashiok is the wild card. I'd have to test it out to see if it works. This is a creature-less deck. I didn't think that actually going creatures was the route to go. People have tried Phenox and like Wall of Frost and whatnot, and it just didn't seem to work, especially with how hostile the format is to creatures at the moment. I do think that Thoughtseize is necessary in this deck, as first turn you get to be proactive and get rid of one of their cards out of their hand that would be kind of mean to you, and I thought of just a 1 of Syncopate to kind of throw them off and make them always play around the Syncopate. Syncopate is such a card I like just 1 of in a deck, as then your opponent is always playing around a Syncopate. Now, speaking of sideboard, the sideboard isn't done by any means in here. You have access to tons of cards. You have access to Duress. You have access to Cyclonic Rift, which is still a very powerful card, as well as Negate. You have access to more Syncopates, and then the creature. If you are worried about creature, like I actually suggest that if you do go the anti-creature route, that you just completely ignore them and go for the Crypt Incursion Profane Memento. And so I'm not even sure you would need these in the sideboard. Maybe Bile Blight and Drown in Sorrow against decks that do try to overwhelm you, because even if you are like Profane Mementoing and getting 7 cards of Mind Sculpt and 3 of them end up being creatures, if you're going to get rushed by a aggro deck, 3 life might not be enough. So you might need to keep in like Bile Blights, but probably won't need to keep in like Ultimate Prices or Doom Blades, as you can just, again, stall. You're using life as a resource. You're using life to buy you a few more turns to actually mill them out. And so any sort of sweepers would be just better than just what I call spot removal, 1-for-1s. Again, Far and Away a lot of times ends up being a 2-for-1. Again, this probably, I don't even know if this deserves to be main boarded. Then we have of course the Crypt Incursion and Profane Memento should be enough. So in all reality, what the sideboard should probably look like is just the Bile Blights and maybe a Freakish Cure. So maybe 2 Drown in Sorrows and the 3 Bile Blights, and then maybe keeping them a 1 or a 2 of Ultimate Price. But I'd probably cut this. And then you'd have the Crypt Incursion, Profane Mementos. I think 2 Demir Charms main board is the right move. I thought of Jace Architect of Thought in here. It's just very good against, like, if you are knowing you're going up against control, you could take out the Far and Aways and bring in Jaces. Or you could take out maybe Demir Charms and put in Jaces or whatnot. So maybe just 2 of Jaces in the sideboards are out to go. And again, Ashok is a wild card here. If you do replace Ashok, it probably will be with Jace, Architect of Thought. So a sideboard that I'd probably run is the... Yeah, this actually looks like you'd want Duresses, and we'd have to get 4 more. Probably don't need maybe a 1 of Negate. Get rid of the other Syncopate and just go to a 1 of Negate. Again, this just makes them play around it forever. I think maybe cutting a Duress, so we'd have 3 Duresses, and maybe a 1 of Cyclonic Rift and a 1 of Bile Blight. And then we do have at least 2. Again, you'd have to mess around this to fit in the rest of the Profane Mementos, but that's kind of a list that I would run. And I think this could actually be very competitive in the metagame right now. The one deck you would really have to worry about is like Mono Blue going for their 1-turn Master of Waves, but I think Drown in Sorrow, Bile Blight, that's what you'd bring those guys in here for, is to kind of keep Mono Blue honest. And you still will get some value out of Crypt Incursion, but Mono Blue doesn't care. It's trying to get you just 1 turn, swing for at least 40 life with Master Waves a lot of times is very feasible. And Crypt Incursion and Profane Memento might not get you there, but I think just adding a few ways to slow down the creatures is the way to go. So yeah, so this would be my first Mind Sculpt Breaking and Entering. With the top 8 Profane Momento card. We'll take a look one more time at that. So this is coming in at number 8. I'll have a little link here to click on to go to number 7. Hope you enjoyed this video. This is Kevin with Roguedeckbuilder.com. Thanks for watching.